What's up, yo? Welcome to the Young Legends podcast, where we teach you the cheat codes of the game of life. I'm your host, Caption, aka Caption Red, and I hope you're doing great wherever you are and that you are thriving and just being mindful of all the good things that are happening as we are still trucking along in this pandemic. Now, I want to first start by saying rest in peace to Tony Hsieh, who's the founder of the company Zappos, which is a shoe company, but so much more. Absolutely heartbreaking to see him pass away at such a young age. He had so much left in his life to go, and I have been significantly touched by his life, and I just want to say those words to honor him. Now, what I'm doing today is I am picking up on this whole concept of gratitude, this life-changing thing, and I am dropping more knowledge on you, and I am really excited about all the things that I'm teaching you and also learning as I teach you. That's the great thing about this podcast. Not only do I get to help people, but I also get helped by the preparation and the things that I learn. I know some things in life, but there's plenty that I don't know. And I'm just super grateful for the fact that as I try to help people, I also am being helped. Now, I've got some information from some great minds who are experts on the topic of gratitude. And so I'm going to drop some knowledge that has been dropped already, and of course, give them credit as I do. Now, first, I want to reference an article by Greater Good Berkeley, which I don't know if you know anything about Berkeley, but it's a great college. Greater Good Berkeley is a science-based website and newsletter and many things. They also have a podcast as well, and it's all about helping people with their mental well-being. So definitely go check them out, and I'll make sure to tag this article in the show notes. Now, this article was written by Dr. Robert Eamons, who is a PhD and the world's leading scientific expert on gratitude. And in this article, he brings his expertise and he talks about a number of different things that you can do to increase your gratitude. One of the things he says is use visual reminders. What Dr. Eamon says is the two main obstacles to gratefulness are being forgetful and a lack of mindful awareness. So what you got to do is you got to set up visual reminders that will trigger a train of thought of gratitude. And he goes on to say that the best visual reminders are what you hold nearest and dearest to you, which is your family, your friends, maybe memories that you've made with them, and maybe possibly memories that you've made otherwise. But visual reminders are very powerful, so put up pictures of your family members, put up pictures of your friends where you'll come across them frequently, put up pictures of trips you may be taking, and if you can't print photos, maybe you have to be a little creative. Maybe what you have to do is make something to remind yourself of them. So here's an idea. Maybe what you do, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, is you make something to remind yourself of them, possibly like maybe a bobblehead. And you can do this by molding a random head out of Play-Doh and then using it to replace the head on a baseball player's body. And voila, you have a reminder, and I guarantee you, when you show them, it definitely won't be weird. It definitely will be weird. Don't do that. I'm just kidding. Now, these are jokes, but sometimes you do have to be creative to come up with visual reminders of the people you care about. And also, maybe you have pictures of people you don't actually know, but you respect and admire them, and you're grateful that they have come onto this earth. So, for example, maybe you put up a picture of Tony Hsieh or Kobe Bryant or Malala or some of your heroes, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Kat Cole, Sarah Blakely, Kerry Washington, your favorite singer, your favorite dancer. I don't know who it is that inspires you in your life and makes you grateful for their existence, but think about who that is and put a picture of them up on your wall to remind you of all the awesome people in this world and also to remind you of what you strive to one day become. Here's another thing that a lot of people do is they put up a sign that says blessed or grateful or thankful or something like that in their room or their living room, so on and so forth. I myself like to wear a headband that says blessed backwards so that every time I look in the mirror, that backwards word blessed is written forwards on my forehead, and then I feel grateful. And this works really well because I spend about 4 hours a day looking in the mirror and taking selfies. And I like to call it my personal reflection time. I'm just kidding. I don't do this. Headbands are itchy. But think of a way to put something up to remind yourself that you're grateful, that you're thankful, and that you're blessed, and that there's so much good going on in your life. Another thing Dr. Eamons says is keep a gratitude journal. And he says, have a daily practice in which you, and I'm directly quoting here, remind yourself of the gifts, grace, benefits, and good things that you enjoy. He says you got to set aside time to focus on the good. And here's another direct quote, which will give you the potential to interweave a sustainable life theme of gratefulness. A sustainable life theme of gratefulness. That has to be how we live our lives. For that theme to roll with us everywhere we go, that it becomes like a soundtrack of our life, that is how your life is going to get better. Now, I heard from a guy named Dan Harris, who's an ABC TV host and also the host of the 10% Happier podcast. He said to make it a daily-ish practice. And he says, make it daily-ish because you don't want to miss a day and then just beat yourself up because you missed one day. He says, you miss a day, it's not the end of the world. And one other thing that I've heard from a lot of people is when you start a habit like journaling, start really small so that you can keep it sustained. Now, how are you going to start practicing the habit of a gratitude journal? Have it on your nightstand, but every morning when you wake up and you make your bed, and I hope you make your bed, place it right on top of your pillow so that when you go to bed at night, you have to pick it up in order to lay in bed, and then that will help you to write in your gratitude journal. These are life hacks that are really going to make a big difference in your life, even though they're small actions. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, what if someone that I live with picks it up and they read it, and then I'm not writing their name down? Well, here's a fix. Make sure that you write their name down every single day. And if you're really not that grateful for them, what you can do is you can imagine another person with their same name as you're writing their name. For example, Bill Murray, or Bill Gates, or Bill Bo Baggins, right? It's easy. Just write Bill. That's all you got to do. Okay, so another thing that Dr. Eamons says is watch your language. Watch how you speak. Grateful people speak in a certain way. They say words like blessed and fortunate and abundance, and you have to start speaking like someone who is grateful. Now, there's this guy named Dave Ramsey. He's a famous financial guru, and when people ask him how he's doing, he always responds, better than I deserve. Better than I deserve. That's a pretty good response, right? And that's the truth. Life is good. Life is so good. If you really think about it, that's the truth. Now, the late Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, had a festival in Vegas that was called Life is Beautiful, and it is. And we need to celebrate the good. We need to use language of gratitude because all in all, life is good. I like that one quote from the Hamilton play where one of the Schuyler sisters says, look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. And that's true. Look around. All the good. Even in the midst of everything we're going through, how lucky we are to be alive right now. So think about that as you live your life. And if it helps for you to write down these words, then write them down. Maybe you need to write a post on social media perhaps about being fortunate, about being blessed, about the abundance of cash you have. Maybe you even need to post a picture to remind yourself by holding up 50s and 100s. And you can even do 20s too if you got a lot of them. And maybe you need to tell the world this message by making a YouTube commercial talking about how much money you have and how you can help those people watching the commercial to make some too. Side note, I have a commercial coming out. Keep an eye out for it. It's going to be a good one. Because what I'm trying to do in life is I'm trying to be that guy. I'm just kidding. I don't want to be that guy. Now, another thing Dr. Eamons says is learn prayers of gratitude. if you feel comfortable with this, there are actual prayers of gratitude that you can learn and you can speak out loud. Maybe you don't feel comfortable doing prayers of gratitude, so maybe you have mantras instead, right? I've been told that mantras are very helpful when it comes to gratitude. I heard one that says, "Love the life you have." I heard one famous person one time say, "Life is effing beautiful." And yes, that's pretty colorful language, but life is beautiful, right? It's something that we say, it's something that we focus on, it's something that we have to remind ourselves, and that can be reminded to us through prayers of gratitude and through mantras. All right, one last thing that Dr. Eamons says is go through the motions. He says, go through motions of gratitude. And what will happen is as you go through those motions, the emotions of gratitude should be triggered. So grateful emotions include smiling, saying thank you, and writing letters of gratitude. And smiling, what it does is it creates endorphins. Writing letters of gratitude are very helpful. I've been doing these recently myself. And as I write to my friends and thank them for the things that they've done for me, it not only changes my day, but it also changes my disposition on life. All right, so I researched through another article done by an online magazine, focuses on wealth. It's called Forbes magazine. And this article was written by Janet Miller, who is a habit scientist, and she does a bunch of other stuff as well. And one of the things she says is practice mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness is meditation. She says sit down and think through a couple of things, 5 or 10 things that you're grateful for. And the trick is, as you do this, what you have to do is you have to picture these things in your mind or these people in your mind, and you have to sit with that feeling of gratitude in your body. And what happens is when you do this, your brain actually becomes rewired to be more grateful, and you will actually feel happier after every session. And mindfulness and meditation is something that sounds big and scary, but all you're doing is you're just sitting and you're being still and you're thinking. And anybody can do that. So practice mindfulness, and remember, just like any other habit, you start small so that you can keep it going. A couple minutes is better than none, and literally 1 minute is better than none. So sit down and think about the things that you're grateful for, and let that feeling just sit right inside of you. Another thing that Miller says is volunteer. So giving back. What giving back does is it helps people to feel gratitude by helping people. Now, giving back and helping people is really good for you, and you really should do it, and do it locally so you really feel like you made a difference in somebody's day. And just seeing somebody smile and seeing somebody's life get a little bit better because of what you did really feels good and will really remind you of all the good that you have going on. Now, kind of related, recently I found myself walking down a stairwell behind this married couple, and they were actually both handicapped somewhat, and they were having a hard time gripping the rail and going down. And sometimes the natural feeling is I have people to meet, which I did, and these people are making me late. But at that moment, I looked at those people and I said, you know what? I'm just so grateful that I'm being reminded of my body being healthy. And to some degree, that's kind of what volunteering does, is it reminds you of how good you really have it. So go out there and volunteer. And one of the keys to volunteering is to do something that kind of suits your personality if you can. I know I've volunteered in the past with things that I'm terrible at and I was kind of miserable. But if you volunteer in a way that suits your personality, or at least doesn't go against your personality, where maybe you're not really a talkative person and you don't like to talk to people at length, don't go volunteer where you're having to talk to a bunch of people, because that's going to make you miserable. Find some volunteering that actually suits you. All right, so going back to Greater Good Berkeley, there was another article I found written by Summer Allen, who is a PhD and a research and writing fellow at the Greater Good Science Center in Berkeley. And one of the things that she says is avoid envy and materialism. And here's the thing about envy. Envy and comparison is the thief of joy. Don't worry about what other people have going on, and don't get jealous by looking at other people's stuff in their life. Mia Jackson, who was my first podcast guest, who's a stand-up comedian, talked about how so many of her comic friends wrecked their careers because they were focused on other people's breaks, their success, and everything that they had going on, instead of focusing on their own. So do not be distracted by what other people have going on. And that's why social media can be so dangerous, because that's a big part of it, showing off what you got and looking at what other people have as well. Also, don't focus on material possessions. The focus on physical stuff is going to rob you of your joy, because at the end of the day, greed is a problem. And this is coming from a guy who just dropped a few $100 on Cyber Monday yesterday. But everything I bought actually makes me a better podcaster, makes me more efficient in my life. And so while I'm spending money and it looks like I'm being materialistic, I actually do so to make myself more efficient, to invest in myself. And I also do spend money to have fun. So that's the kind of spending that's okay. Those are the kind of material possessions that are okay, the ones that actually add value to your life and make your life quality improve. Another thing she says is avoid narcissism. Okay? Avoid narcissism. And she says this is quite obvious, that narcissistic people can't be grateful. And if you've been around narcissistic people, you definitely don't see any gratitude in their hearts, because it's all about them anyways, and they deserve this, and so on and so forth. And so try not to be a narcissistic person. As we live in a society that actually encourages that, try to avoid it. Now, here's the last article that I referenced, written by Ciara Conley, who is a productivity coach and an author. She says a number of things. She says, practice gratitude at the same time every day to make it a habit. Because when you do it at the same time every single day, that's what makes it sustainable and makes it a habit. I recommend possibly using an alarm or pairing it with something you do, maybe like your first sip of coffee or your breakfast or so on and so forth. Or maybe it's on your commute to school or work or outside before you go in. But she says practice it at the same time every day, and that's definitely solid advice. Also, she says add to your gratitude list daily at least one more thing each day. She says have a long-running list, and although I don't do this, I did make a list of all the people I'm grateful for on Thanksgiving, and I texted over 60 people to tell them, hey, I'm really grateful for your presence in my life. And I got a flood of text messages back, and people were adding me to their Christmas list, and they were like, hey, let's hang out, etc., and just sending positive vibes back to me. Now, the reason why we show appreciation to people is because they deserve it, first of all. But when you show appreciation to people, you get more of what you want, which is time with the people you care about. Another thing she says is make a gratitude collage. Cut out pictures of all the things that you're grateful for. And let me tell you this is much better than a vision board, because a vision board talks about what you want. And honestly, based on the science, they don't work, because vision boards, although in theory they're good, they're not effective because they make you think that things will magically happen. And so psychologists say to focus on the good that you have and the actions that you need to take in order to get what you want, and then you'll be on your way. Which is not sexy, I know, but that's how we get there. A few other tips she says is watch inspiring videos that will remind you of the good that is going on in this world. Now, I recommend if you're on social media and you follow positive people, at least, to make your life better. So Tank's Good News, that's TANKS, Good News, is one of the accounts that I do follow. And also watch inspiring things. For example, the movie Forrest Gump is a very inspiring movie. And when I watch that movie, I eat a plate full of gratitude shrimp and have a good time and enjoy myself and remind myself that this is my life, and like Forrest Gump, I can go out and do some things with myself as well, although I don't want to walk across the country. And I'll actually pass on a few of the other things that he's done. Another tip, avoid negative media and movies with destructive content. I've known this for a while in my life, garbage in, garbage out. So do not put anything negative in your mind that's full of just destruction and bad things. Basically, any Michael Bay movie, seriously, every single movie should be named Armageddon, because all he does is not make sense and blow things up. So with that being said, I do unfollow people on the regular depending on what they are posting, and I recommend that you do as well if it triggers negativity in your mind. Now, one last tip that Conley says is improve the happiness in other areas of your life. Because when you are happy in your life and you do things that make you feel good, like exercise or practicing something that you enjoy, what that does is that gets your mood up, and then you reflect on all the good that you have happening, and that makes you more grateful. And the more you do that, the better your life will become. So always make sure you're doing things that improve your happiness for obvious reasons, and also to increase your gratitude. And with that being said, if one of your hobbies is maintaining bushes, I will make my yard available to support your happiness. I'm here for you. Come see me. I got a place for you to play. All right, so that's pretty much it. Now, I know what you're saying to yourself. I feel like I just drank from a fire hose. There's so many tips that he just dropped. How am I supposed to do all these things? And my answer to you is, you're not. You're not supposed to do all these things, but they're all available for you to pick from. And my challenge to you is just to pick one of these things to start practicing now so that you can make your life better. So with that being said, I'll go over a few of them for you, using visual reminders in your personal spaces and elsewhere, keeping a gratitude journal, working on your language, learning prayers and mantras of gratitude and speaking them, going through the motions like writing thank you letters, practicing mindfulness and meditation, volunteering, practicing gratitude at the same time every day, making a gratitude collage, watching inspiring videos, and doing things that make you happy in other areas of your life. From that list, there should be at least one thing that resonates with you that you can do in order to start developing more and more gratitude inside yourself. And gratitude, like I said before, is a practice, and you're not going to be very good when you first start. But if you make it a practice, then your life will get better, because like anything else in life, you get out what you put in. So put in some effort on gratitude, and you will thank yourself later. Now I'm going to end on this. I challenge you today to start practicing one of those habits that I mentioned. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at younglegendspodcast@gmail.com or on social media at Young Legends Podcast. All right, so that's all I got for this episode. If you are enjoying this podcast, if it is adding value to your life, don't forget to subscribe. And I would really appreciate it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts, because that's actually super helpful in getting the word out and giving credibility to what I'm doing. And I'll make sure to put instructions in the show notes so that that'll be easy for you to do. All right, I hope you're well wherever you are. I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a thing or two. And until next time, peace!